All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is Daily Vlog 2026, number 183. And today, starting to think about December. I know it's weird to start planning for something so far in the future, but for anyone who doesn't, I guess I should start over this. For anyone who doesn't know, if you're relatively new to the channel, in December, I do this thing called Daily December. I've been doing it, I think, for like 14 or 15 years now, or this might be my 15th year. I don't know. One of those. Numbers are hard. Anyway, I started it forever ago. When I first started this channel, I started this channel because I auditioned for the Geek and Sundry Vlogger Search. It was a 3-step system, like a 3-round system, where everyone is allowed in round 1, and then the top a top category of people that got votes made it into round 2, and then round 3 was the people that actually made it in. I did not make it out of round 1 for good reason. I was not prepared to be a Geek and Sundry vlogger then, and I have no idea how different my life would be now had I gotten into the Geek and Sundry vloggers channel. Like, genuinely, I would be in a completely different life path. But just because I didn't make it in didn't mean that I wasn't going to continue doing this YouTube thing, because I really liked kind of the community that old school YouTube had, and I wanted to be a part of it. So a bunch of former Geek and Sundry vloggers that didn't get in, a bunch of the people that auditioned but didn't get in, got involved in this thing called Daily December or Vlogmas. There was a couple different names, and there were some big YouTubers that used to do it as well. Now it's really just me. But it was basically make a video every day of the month for the entirety of the month of December. And so I did it my first year, and I'm like, oh, not only was this a challenge for me, but I actually learned quite a bit from it. And so every year since then, I've done Daily December. Even before I started doing all of this daily vlogging, I was always doing Daily December. And the purpose of Daily December became try something new, try to learn, try to grow in some way, shape, or form. And I have held myself to that for over a decade. Well, a few years ago, I came up with this idea of, well, what if, because my channel was so kind of focused on TTRPGs, what if for Daily December I just ran a bunch of TTRPGs? I'd take a short hiatus from my regular Wednesday night games, and I would run one-shots of 4 different TTRPGs. For anyone wondering, that was a mistake. It was probably the most brutal thing I have ever done in my life. Learning, and it wasn't like, I did, 4 D&D clones or something like that. I think that year I did Dune Adventures in the Imperium, The Strange, which is a Cypher System game, Avatar Legends, and then Library Cats. So those 4 TTRPGs are about as different as you could possibly get. They don't even use the same dice for resolution. Dune used their 2d20 system. Cypher System uses a single d20 for everything. Avatar Legends uses a 2d6 system, and Library Cats used a dice pool of d6s. And so yeah, like it was intense. I had fun, but it was overwhelming. So the year after that, I went, okay, instead of trying to completely destroy my brain with 4 different TTRPGs, I'm just going to run a mini campaign. And that year, I believe, was the year that Power Rangers came out. And so I ran a Power Rangers mini campaign, and it was massively fun. I got to really dig into the Essence 20 system. It's one of the reasons I fell in love with it. It was great. I loved it. Fast forward, every year since then, I have done a mini campaign. Again, I take a break from my 2 weekly games, and I run a mini campaign for the month of December. Last year, I did. What did I do last year? It wasn't Lancer last year, was it? I don't know. I did something last year that involves my brain not working. It's really sad that my brain just doesn't want to let me remember. If I go to playlists, it'll tell me. Oh, I did the Dark Sun in Draw Steel. Yeah. Duh. Lancer was last year. So, I when I do these things, it takes time for me to kind of prep for it and actually be able to run it. Because a lot of times I'm running something completely homebrew. Again, the first time I did it, we used the Power Rangers RPG, but and I think we used the Angel Grove map from Adventures in Angel Grove. But that was it. Everything else was completely custom. I created my own Power Rangers team, my own monsters, everything like that. So that was completely homebrew. The one that I just did recently, Dark Sun, I adapted Dark Sun Shattered Lands, the video game from the 90s, into a campaign, but I had to modify Draw Steel in order to do that. And like the year before was Lancer, and I had to turn it into Metroid, and the one before that was Fabula Ultima, which is just built around homebrew and stuff like that. So it does take me quite a bit of time to be able to do this every year. And in general, I start my planning for my December campaign around like August, September-ish of that year. Well, this year I may be starting that planning just a little bit early. And the reason why is Twilight Sword has just given out the final PDFs of all the materials. Now, I backed that at a physical level, which meant that in addition to all the PDF stuff, I also get physical stuff, that I'm very, very excited about. I can't wait for it. But as of right now, I have everything that I need to be able to run a Twilight Sword campaign. And when I tell you that the final version of these things has got me irrationally excited, I can't really explain the completeness of that statement. Like I am so irrationally excited for this TTRPG because it is, if you compare it to 5th edition, it is rules light. It still has a decent amount of crunch. So it's not going to be like completely, but there's no maximum level. There's no like level bonuses or something like that. Like basically every single class, which they call your way, like Way of the Sword or Way of the Shield, each way is basically just a collection of skills, which I think they call feat or perks, something akin to that. And every time you level up, which involves gaining 4 hope through doing quests and stuff like that, you get to pick another perk. And there's no maximum. And one of the things you can do instead of picking a perk, you can just pick up a second way. but you can only ever have two ways. So there's built-in multi-classing, so you can kind of create your own custom class. And that's it. Like, there's magic items and stuff like that, and there's a really cool potion making system and cooking system as well. But none of it is exceptionally deep or mechanically complex. It is just enough complexity to allow them all to exist, which I love. Yeah, just everything about it is really, really appealing to me. And so as I was reading through the core rulebook, another thing that I really like about it, like monsters all come on cards. So the whole game comes on cards. But unlike, you know, these kind of cards, like for, what is this, Gamma World? Yeah. Unlike, you know, Gamma World or any other game that uses cards where they're going to be like playing cards, the cards for Twilight Sword are all squares, which is interesting. But just about everything in the game comes on a card. Like, all the monsters come on a card, where the front of the card will have artwork of the monster, and the back of the card will have its stats and the attacks that it can use. And larger monsters come on multiple cards. Like, there's boss monsters that are 2 cards, that are like one on top of the other, or one beside the other. And then there are like big boss monsters, which are 4 cards. And so the artwork is cut up into 4 different pieces, and then you flip them over, and you have all of the abilities of the boss monsters. And so because of that, running these monsters is actually easier than running them, like running a D&D monster. I mean, technically, yes, D&D monsters have their little stat block, but the stat blocks in and of themselves are not very easy to kind of take out of where they are and, you know, be able to use them on their own. Like, either you have them in something like a monster manual where there's artwork to the side of them, and there's if you're lucky, there's like a description of them underneath the stat block, and the stat block itself is sometimes a weird shape or something like that. So they're not particularly easy to just kind of plug and play into different things, compared to something like 4th edition, where most of the stat blocks were all about the same size, and you can just cut them out and use them. Well, Twilight Sword, it's even easier. Everything is a square. It's so insanely easy to, like, I have a PDF of all the cards, or multiple PDFs of all the cards. And if I want to design a combat encounter, I literally open up the PDF, export each card as its own separate, like, JPEG or PNG, and then I can put it into anything that I want. Like, I can put it into a VTT and use the image as their icon on the board, and I can use the card thing as literally, I just put it in as an art file, and I can just click on it, and I have everything I need to run the monster right there. And if the VTT has a way to track hit points or something like that, I can attach that to the picture version of it. And like, it is just unbelievably simple to run these monsters. Yeah, just everything about it is just really, really exciting to me. And so I've started thinking about what I want to do for Daily December this summer. Or not this summer, this winter. I mean, in like Australia, it's summer in December, but in Wisconsin, it's winter in December. Gotta love my apple juice. One of the few things my brain lets me drink. So, I mentioned a little while ago, I think when I did the in-depth review. Oh, by the way, I will be doing an in-depth review of the Twilight Sword core book. I generally wait to do my in-depth reviews until after people have the ability to purchase it themselves, because I like to leave a link to wherever you can get it in my review. I have another thing. I can't even remember what it's called now. I interviewed those two guys from Homie and the Dude about their Kickstarter for their system agnostic campaign setting. I backed that. I have the final PDF of it, and I've just been waiting to do my in-depth review for them to kind of put it on sale so that everyone can buy it. I haven't been watching really closely, so I don't know if it's already on sale. But as soon as I realize it's on sale, I'll have an in-depth review for that. I'll have an in-depth review for Twilight Sword as well. So that being said, last I don't know, I think during Daily December this past year, I did an in-depth review of Break, the kind of anime inspired TTRPG. And while I think Break is really, really cool and unique, and the mechanics work for exactly what Break wants it to be, I had mentioned then, it's like, maybe I'll use Break to run like a Secret of Mana or a Mana series mini campaign sometime, because that would be fun. And I'm a huge Mana series fan. I think I've played almost every single game in the Mana series aside from Dawn of Mana, which was a PS2 game that everybody hated. And then Heroes of Mana, which was a DS real-time strategy game that was a sequel to, I think it was Trials of Mana, which at that point was just called Seiken Densetsu 3. And we didn't get an English language version of it until just a few years ago. But yeah, I've wanted to do a Mana series like campaign for a little while now because I love it so much and it's such an interesting, vibrant world. And kind of just like the Final Fantasy series, the Mana series games technically are not all done in the same universe. Like if we look at the Dragon Quest games, there's an actual through line through, I think, the first 3 games, there's an actual through line. The second 3 games also has an actual through line where they're like sequels. And I think the first 6 games all happen in the same world, just at different times. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong about that, but I thought the first 6 were all in the same thing. Whereas Final Fantasy 1 is its own world. Final Fantasy 2, own world. Final Fantasy 3, its own world. The only thing that links the different Final Fantasy games are certain thematic components, things like crystals, some dude named Sid, things like that, chocobos. So the Mana series is very similar in that, where the games themselves don't have a unified timeline or anything like that. There's a few that have references to other games, but for the most part, they're all their own game, their own world, with just certain thematic components. And those components tend to be the Sword of Mana is super powerful and useful. There are Mana spirits that govern magic in the world, and then there's something connected to the Mana spirits that is very important that the major factions in that world are fighting over. In Secret of Mana, they were Mana seeds. In Trials of Mana, they were Mana stones. I think the first one, which was called Final Fantasy Adventure here in the US, that was remade as Sword of Mana. If I remember correctly, plot-wise, I think they were just fighting over the Sword of Mana in that one. Like, they weren't even dealing with stones or anything like that. But that tends to be a thing. Oh, and then there's also the Mana Tree and the Mana Goddess. So yeah, I kind of tossed around this idea of, well, maybe I'll use Break because there's some stuff in there in the anime aesthetic kind of makes it feel like I could jury rig that system into something that might work for a Mana series game. Guys, I gotta tell you, I think Twilight Sword would be the perfect system, aside from if Square Enix ever gets their heads out of their asses and actually hires somebody that knows how to make a TTRPG to make like a Mana series TTRPG, aside from something like that happening, I think Twilight Sword would be a perfect system to run a Mana series game. Because a lot of the stuff in Twilight Sword, despite the fact that Twilight Sword is 100% Breath of the Wild / Tears of the Kingdom, the TTRPG. Like, it's blatantly obvious that that's what they want. The monsters in there look like they came right out of Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. The cooking mechanics are straight out of Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. The money is called Zenit, I think is the word they use, and it is a gem-based economy. You have green Zenit, blue Zenit, and red Zenit. Green Zenit are one blue Zenit is worth 10 green Zenit, and one red Zenit is worth 10 blue Zenit, which would be worth 100 green Zenit. So they decimalized it, whereas in actual Legend of Zelda, green rupees are 1, blue rupees are 5, red rupees are 20, silver rupees are 50, and gold rupees are 100. So yeah, they've decimalized it a little bit better, but it's 100% Legend of Zelda. Like, that's what it is. And specifically the Breath of the Wild version of Legend of Zelda. They even put a weapon durability system in there so your weapons can break, like the stupid system in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom that I hate. It's an optional system, by the way, so you don't have to use it, and I haven't used it. Yeah, so looking through the Twilight Sword core rulebook, and then they're like campaign setting, because the core rulebook has like the GM portion in it, but then they also have the Lands of Radia book, which is basically the Radia campaign setting, which comes with a shit ton of lore, and then also an expanded monster list, which is really, really great. So it's still very, very useful, even if you're not going to be running stuff in Radia, to have it just because of all the extra monsters. But because of how the system is set up, it is like they have 8 elements, which in the Lands of Radia they even mentioned that there are elemental spirits that govern each one of these elements. So we already have that aspect, which is probably the most difficult thing to implement into most TTRPGs, is the fact that, you know, there are 8 elements, and in order to be able to cast spells from those elements, you have to somehow interact with the elemental spirit or sprite that governs that. Most TTRPGs, that's not how it works. Elements are just like damage and resistance and stuff like that. So the fact that that already exists in there works to my favor. I would have to modify a little bit, because in Secret of Mana, let's go Mana series elementals, Mana spirits. The elements in Twilight Sword. Come on. There we go. Elements. So, the elements in Twilight Sword are fire, ice, wind, earth, thunder, water, darkness, and light. In the Mana series, the elements are light, wood, wind, fire, darkness, moon, earth, and water. So, Twilight Sword, they basically, like in the Mana series, water covers both water spells and ice-based spells. And wind covers both wind-based spells and lightning-based spells. Whereas in Twilight Sword, ice is its own element and thunder is its own element. So I would have to basically remove either ice or water, and remove either thunder or wind, in order to replace those with wood and moon. That being said, it's not particularly difficult to do, and then I just have to kind of organize the spells into these spells are associated with this element, which again, not particularly difficult to do. So, yeah. I think, like, I 100% think that this is a definite thing that I can do. And then the rest of the stuff in there, like, especially when you get to something like Trials of Mana, whether you're talking about the remake, which is an excellent game. It's probably, as much as I hate to say this, the Trials of Mana remake is probably the best Mana game that they've ever put out. Secret of Mana is awesome, but flawed. The original Trials of Mana is more awesome and less flawed, but it's still, a little bit flawed. Legend of Mana is amazing, but is so weird and so kind of obtuse in how you play it that it turned off a lot of people because it has this like non-linear storytelling thing, and there are so many different systems built into it that you don't have to interact with almost any of them. But if you want to interact with these systems, things like the instrument making system, which is how you cast spells in Legend of Mana, you have to place each area that you explore. Like every new area you explore, you get as an artifact, and then you place it on the map. And each artifact changes the mana distribution in the areas around it. And in order to be able to make the most powerful instruments and things like that, you have to have certain areas have certain elemental focuses, because that's where you're going to find the coins that you need to be able to make the instruments that you want to make. And it's very, very complicated, far too complicated. And the game never explains it. So Legend of Mana is gorgeous and beautiful, but it's not great. But Trials of Mana, it's very easy to get into. It is a little bit like the difficulty on launch was far too easy. Like if you play in normal mode, you will breeze through the game, and you may never have a TKO, like or a TPK. Like you may never have that happen because it's not an exceptionally difficult game. The hard mode actually makes it kind of difficult to play, but it's still not bad. They added 2 more difficulty modes after launch that are very, very difficult. But the top one I would not recommend trying as your first playthrough. I don't think you can do it as your first playthrough because all the monsters are so overpowered that if you don't have max level weapons and armor, you get one shot by everything. But anyway, but yeah, Trials of Mana, even compared to Visions of Mana, which is the game that came out like last year or the year before, that is the newest Mana series game, and it's a fine game. It's not as good as Trials of Mana. I'm really sorry to say. I wanted to love it, and I do enjoy it. I haven't finished it yet. I do enjoy it, but it's just not as good. It's okay. It's not great. But yeah. Anyway, getting back to the whole purpose of this, I love the Mana series. I have loved it forever. And yeah, this has just about I was mentioning in Trials of Mana, their item system is so much more advanced than like the Secret of Mana version of it, where you have all these different items. Like you have items for every single element, every single sprite that will just turn your weapons to do that kind of damage. Then you also have multiple items that allow you to just cast a spell from as if you were the spellcasting class that could cast that kind of spell. Then there's a bunch of different items that allowed you to do attacks that monsters could do. Like it had a really, really kind of advanced item system. And so the alchemy and cooking system built into Twilight Sword can kind of fit that if you combine the alchemy and cooking system with the magic system, with the weapon system that already exists in there, I have just about everything I would need to be able to run a Mana series campaign. The only thing that I technically wouldn't have is in Secret of Mana, you have 8 weapons that anybody can use. And as you level, as you kill bosses, you will get these orbs that you use to upgrade the weapons. And each upgrade increases the power of the weapon, but also gives it new abilities. Like sometimes, hitting an enemy with a weapon will bubble them, which is Secret of Mana's version of stunning. Or they will do extra damage to monsters of a certain type. Things like that. Yeah, anyway, that's the only thing that isn't explicitly built into the system, of the ability to kind of like upgrade weapons and, give them different elements. But there's enough in the system that if I wanted to run a full campaign, I could add that in without too much difficulty. And, yeah. Anyway, like I said, I am irrationally excited about Twilight Sword. I am planning on for Zelda Universe, because I'd been having issues getting the regular cast available enough to be able to run the game. A few weeks ago, I ran the starter set. Just so I had something to run, and I brought a bunch of my own players. We didn't get through the whole starter set. They were still making their way through this forest area, and then would have to get to the there's a final boss, and then there's technically 2 more parts to the starter set. We were only doing the first part. So I am planning the next time I can't get enough players to play, I'm just going to run the rest of Twilight Sword. So I am already planning on running Twilight Sword again for Zelda Universe, but I think at this point, unless something else comes out that just completely moves me in the other direction. I think I have the mostly final version of Where's Blade, which is a Japanese TTRPG that came out in the 80s, and we finally got an English translation. And it is described as sword and sorcery and mecha. So you have your kind of classic Japanese fantasy, like Record of Lodoss War, plus giant robots. So there's magic and swordplay, giant robots. So I've gotten that one. It's very cool. It hasn't like inspired me to where I'm like, ooh, I need to run this right now. Sword World has been delayed because they've been having issues with artwork and stuff like that. Their plan is still to have the translation done, at least the last update we got like a month or 2 ago. The plan was still to have the translation done and everything by the end of the year, but then I wouldn't have enough time to learn the system and plan everything. So, that's out. The new Cypher, again, I have, I think I have the final beta version of the 2 core books. And they mentioned that shipping for those is going to be coming out pretty soon. And I'll have everything, all 3 of the books, the core book, the GM book, and the the Bestiary. I'll have all that stuff by October, which would give me plenty of time to learn the changes. But I'm already running a Cypher System game. It's first edition versus second edition, but I'm already running a Cypher System game for Zelda Universe, so I don't really feel the need to do another one. So yeah, right now, like, Twilight Sword is the one that has gotten me. It's not that there aren't other cool TTRPGs out there. Like, again, we're getting the expansion to Daggerheart, and I've run Daggerheart. I love Daggerheart. It's a great system, but again, it's just not like this has 100% become my obsession, which is basically what happened with Draw Steel last year. When I got Draw Steel, I was like, oh, this is so cool. I need this badly. Right now, I need it. And so that's kind of what's going on with Twilight Sword right now. So, yeah, so that's what I'm thinking right now is this December I'm going to use Twilight Sword to run a Secret of Mana campaign. That's as far as I've gotten. You know, I haven't done like a lot of the like pre-work that I have to do to get everything going. But I've got the idea, and a lot of times like that's like the most difficult part. And I'll probably start the actual pre-production work probably like October, November-ish, because that's when I normally start like nose to the grindstone. Now let's get this done. But yeah, unless there's another TTRPG that like blows me away soon here. And it doesn't need to be like a brand new TTRPG. Like Lancer was old when I ran my Metroid game using Lancer. It had been out for years. And I had owned it for years, and I just never had the chance to run a game. So it doesn't need to be like a brand new system. It just needs to be a system that I go, oh, this is massively cool, and I want to do this. So, and right now that's Twilight Sword. So, interested to hear from you guys. First of all, do I have anyone else that backed Twilight Sword as one of my fans? I know I talked about it a decent amount, but I'd be interested to hear anyone else's opinions on it, because I've been blown away with how great the system is. Yeah. And then, what are your guys' opinions on the Mana series? Are you like me? Are you true fans where, you know, you would spend hours upon hours ranking up those stupid spells because they took forever? You'd have to cast like a level 7 spell like 100 times in order to get it up to level 8. Like me when you were a kid? Or have you never played a Mana series game? Let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, again, that's going to be all for me today. I will see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.